The Good Samaritan Health Clinic is a volunteer-driven, nonprofit organization. We have been in business for 23 years. We're a charitable, free clinic. We receive no federal or state funding, as we rely on grants, donations, and fundraisers to sustain us. We provide top-quality medical and dental services free of charge to eligible Pasco County residents. We believe every person has the right to health care regardless of ability to pay. We have a paid staff of 7 and an army of volunteers that help us deliver this health care. Last year, 100 volunteers donated 3,500 hours as licensed volunteers to deliver the free health care. 4,000 hours were donated by general volunteers. We all have the same thought in mind to delivering and giving services to those folks that have fallen between the cracks. We couldn't do this without our community partners of the hospitals, United Way, the Community Foundation of Tampa Bay, and lots of other community supporters to help us stay afloat. You can learn more about us by going to our website at www.goodsamclinic.org. We're very happy to be able to do the services that we do and meet the needs of our community.
Well, a few years ago, we undertook a major change initiative. Some of us on the board of directors at the Good Samaritan Health Clinic recognized that our board of directors needed some organization and a more efficient way of operating. We decided to make a major change initiative by restructuring the board and their mode of governance. We realized that we needed to find a way for the board to more efficiently accomplish its work. We had 18 good board members, all committed to the work of the clinic, but there was no structure and little focus and planning. Issues were dealt with at board meetings, which were held every other month. Many board members chimed in on each issue with questions and recommendations, but often issues had to be moved to the next board meeting before a final decision could be made, and more time was sometimes spent on current operational issues rather than a focus on strategic planning. We were uncomfortable with the lack of organization and planning, and were looking around for a better process to allow us to work more efficiently. I introduced the idea of working with a consultant for the purpose of improving board governance. The suggestion was brought to the board of directors and approved. So after a consultation with Doug Eadie and phone calls with several key board members, a governance task force was appointed. Doug introduced his high-impact governing model, which focused on board decision-making processes with board involvement in strategic planning and in performance monitoring. In order to bring the idea and a plan to the rest of the board, the governance task force hosted a one-day board work session to introduce the structure to board members and to get their input on some key strategic planning issues. As a result of the board work session and the work of the governance task force, the board approved their recommendations for a new board structure, which formed several committees. We established the Planning and Program Development Committee, which would be responsible for short-term and future planning, both financial and program-related, for recommending strategic issues, and for periodically reviewing the values, the vision, and the mission of the clinic. The Performance Oversight and Monitoring Committee would be responsible for financial oversight, including the annual budget, for the monitoring and assessment of program performance, and for administrative issues. The duties of the External Relations and Resource Development Committee would include public relations, that is, promoting relationships in the community and updating the clinic's image, and fund development and donor relations. Overseeing the work of these three committees would be the Board Operations Committee. This group would include board officers and committee chairs who would coordinate the work of the committees and the work of the Board of Directors in general. They would set the agenda for board meetings and monitor board performance. They would also serve as the board nominating committee and review and evaluate the performance of the CEO. Board committees would be expected to meet periodically in between board meetings and bring recommendations to the board for action.
There have been a number of benefits regarding our new structure at the clinic. For the first time, the board has been involved with strategic planning. Board members are more engaged. Issues are being addressed. Board members and board meetings are more productive. It allows for better planning and just moving forward with ideas. Everybody has a voice. Not to mention the benefits for me as the CEO, having a select committee to take different ideas to so their work can begin with planning and developing. It's been a win-win for all concerned and beneficial for all concerned.
I agree, Melissa, that the new governance model has been beneficial, but we should recognize that there have been some challenges along the way. The first challenge was to get board members to understand the need for change, to understand the recommendations for a new governance structure, and to buy in, if you will, to the plan in order to accept and to implement the new committee system. That was successfully accomplished through the steps I outlined a few minutes ago. Instead of making the proposed change a directive that board members might feel was forced on them, the proposed plan was first introduced to a smaller key group of board members via the Governance Task Force. Then the Governance Task Force got all the board members to participate at the board retreat. So when the proposal was made to adapt the new structure at a board meeting, everyone was familiar and somewhat comfortable with the proposal and recognized its value. Another challenge we experienced along the way was actually to get the committees to meet in between board meetings and to bring their recommendations to board meetings. Some committees have operated successfully, and they do meet on a fairly regular basis, sometimes in person and sometimes with email or phone follow-up. Other committees have not always been as diligent. We found that the effectiveness of any committee is often attributed to the commitment by the committee chair in leading and managing their committee. The challenge here was that the board members on the non-functioning committees did not have the opportunity to participate, and some of the duties of the board of directors were not being met. So we decided to do a little reorganization. When we realized that the committee system was not functioning as well as we had planned, we considered how adjustments could be made. First, a new committee chair was named, but for a while we continued to have the same problem, a non-functioning committee. After a discussion of the issue with Doug and with key board members, we considered combining the three committees into two, assigning the duties of the non-functioning committee to another committee, and dividing those committee members into the two remaining committees. All the board members would then have the opportunity to participate in a functioning group, and the work of the board could move forward. Specifically, we combined the duties of the Planning and Program Development Committee and the Performance Oversight and Monitoring Committee to now become the Planning and Oversight Committee. Then the duties of the External Relations and Resource Development Committee essentially remained the same, but we renamed it to Community Development Committee. This was a relatively recent change, and it's too soon for evaluation, but I'm confident that the new division of duties and the new committee chair will prove effective.